15 degrees, you can see your breath. Out here in the lake effect, breaking tables like it's poetry. Where else would you rather be? Pinto on Elvis in the lay poncho. The members that you need to know. 'Cause once you out here now, your family. Where else would you rather be? Where else would you rather be?
Welcome into the Nickel City Crew. I am your host, Rob Crippen. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Nickel City Crew. This episode, along with all of our episodes, are presented by Crippen Legacy Entertainment here on Spreaker and StreamYard. We're so glad that you're joining us for some of your Buffalo Bills and NFL content again today. And as always, these are my Bills thoughts said out loud.
It's a vibe so ridiculous. Since 12 plus 83 was 6. The shout rocking like a symphony. Where else would you rather be?
All right, let's get straight to it. Excited for tonight's episode. I'm really invigorated. I mean, it's just the draft when it comes. I know that we've spoken about how, my co-host and I are not kind of draft nerds or anything like that, but it's always fun to get the new blood into the organization and to kind of check out these draft picks and see some of the things that they might offer your team. And I know that 32 fan bases across the league are doing that right now at the conclusion of the 2023 NFL draft last weekend. It was a lot of fun, to be honest, and some of the storylines and some of the things that we were talking about, DT, kind of came to fruition as well. But I wanted to kind of go over the draft tonight and kind of point forward to, next month. Next month, we've got the schedule release. I think next week, we've got the schedule release. They're tentatively talking about the 11th of the month, which is, I think, next Thursday for releasing the schedule. And that should be very interesting as well. Kind of get a chance to plan out your fall and winter. If you're anything like my co-host and I mean, it's a big time of year when the schedule comes out. You get an opportunity to really see what, where you're going, when you're going there, and when the Bills are going to be playing. And that's all we care about for sure as Bills Mafia, as Nickel City Crew. So without any further ado, joining me tonight, as always, my co-host, Adam Dump Truck Rubsick. Holla at the crew, DT. What's good, DT, man? We got a little bit of new blood in the organization. I'm feeling good, man. Get the juice flowing.
Nickel City, what's up? Yeah, the new faces, new number 86. 86 hasn't been a real famous number in Bills history. I think a lot of short-termers. I think Lofton had it maybe 1 year, but hopefully this is the long-term 86, the long-term answer. And overall, I think a decent draft, as we'll get into tonight. But new faces, the baby's on the team now, and as Josh Allen kind of relates to him as stupid rookies, right? So we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, this should be interesting. I'm really interested in it because of the fact that there's been a lot of debate about this newest draft pick and the first round pick, and we were kind of all wondering, the wide receiver train. I was on it, hoping for a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, and it's just interesting how the board goes. You know what I mean? Like Bijan Robinson taken nice and early. DT, and then another running back surprise with Jahmyr Gibbs going to Detroit early on, top 15 pick. It's just it just kind of proves to our point from last week, DT. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to go on. You really don't know where these teams have these guys evaluated and where they've got them pegged because we never get a chance to see their boards. And it was just crazy, man. That wide receiver run happened right before the Bills got on the clock at their selected pick at 27, and then Brandon Beane, which we talked about, got antsy. He kind of joked and alluded to it that he would get antsy, and he does. And he moves up a couple spots to make sure that he gets his guy in Dalton Kincaid, which we'll talk about. But the draft, the first round, man, I mean, Will Levis sliding all the way out of the first round. Like, it was a little bit of a crazy round. I think they set the record for most trades in the draft, like 43 trades throughout the weekend. It was a little bit back and forth, man. It was wild, especially that first round. Yeah. You were kind of wondering what was going on. I mean, especially with Houston trading right back up to number 3. Like, it was kind of a whirlwind for a few picks right there.
Yeah, it was probably the most riveting first round I've watched in recent memory for sure, other than when the Bills were picking top 5, top 10, and I was real in tune to it. And yeah, it was entertaining. A few moves, some drama, some other things that popped up that made it interesting to watch. At least until they kept us up late until that Bills pick, but it was interesting
Yes.
up until then, and with the trades. And I like that when Houston did the 2-3. That's like you ever see that Kevin Costner movie, Draft Day?
Yes,
That's
we're
the
the
shit he
Cleveland
pulls
Browns. Yeah.
there. He goes up and gets like the 2-3, and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "What the heck? You could never do that." And the Texans did, and
Yeah.
got some. I think it's going to be some premier players in this league, and the running backs are surprising with Bijan Robinson. I kind of felt was going in the first round somewhere.
Right.
But Jahmyr Gibbs, I didn't think they had second round written all
That was out
over
of
it.
left field, man.
And,
Yeah.
did you see the Lions? I mean, I'm sure they showed all the draft rooms. They make the pick. They're all
They were excited though,
when
man.
they made that Gibbs pick, they were pumped.
Yeah, they were amped, man. Dan Campbell, those guys were amped up. I mean,
they took Jack Campbell too. So
they took Jack Campbell. They traded
making
DeAndre
in some
Swift.
eyes would be reaches in those people that were probably second rounds on all the boards, and took them both early in the first. So we'll see.
It's
But
crazy.
yeah, a lot of drama. The Will Levis thing is, you run that risk every year of like Malik Willis last year, right? And of just like the guy that's highly touted and then starts to slip. And last week it was weird. I don't know if it was just some Vegas gamesmanship or what was going on, but all of a sudden Will Levis just shot up the ranks as maybe even the top QB out or number 2.
Yeah, it was number 2.
We're going to come up and get him and all this shit. And then, he's sitting there, and that has to be tough for
it has to be
somebody, anybody, especially
I know
for
that
a kid.
he's
You're
polarizing.
just sitting there and the camera's on you, but had some decent looking ladies with him. But
he had his mother with him, and then his girlfriend caught, or at least a lady friend of his caught a lot of attention as well. I mean, it was interesting because you never know how that's going to work out, and it has to be shitty, to be honest, because I was thinking about it and kind of talking to some friends about it, and I was just like, man, you're just sitting there and you come there and then you get dressed up and you think that this is going to be your shining moment that night, and then all of a sudden it kind of Aaron Rodgers, it just kind of all just comes crashing down, where you're just sitting there in the green room and guys are getting picked and you're giving daps and handshakes, and then all of a sudden your name's not called, and it's got to be an eerie feeling for sure. So I did feel bad for him, regardless of the fact that he is a little bit polarizing. I don't really get it, besides the mayo and the coffee thing, which obviously sounds disgusting. But other than that, I mean, like, I have nothing to, no problems with Will Levis. And again, I heard that he was arrogant or something like that. And like I said, down here in Charlotte, we heard all that type of same shit with Cam Newton and different things like that. So I really don't pay too much attention to it. Now, it's funny because some of the picks, you're absolutely right. You kind of alluded to it. Detroit for sure, who trades DeAndre Swift after they get Jahmyr Gibbs with the 12th pick. And then they also take Jack Campbell, like you talked about, at 18. There were some picks in there.
But they didn't trade DeAndre Swift till Friday.
Until after the draft. Yeah. So they definitely, this was all a part of their plan in that respect. And it's funny because the wide receiver trade that WGR talks about so much, it started at pick 20. Jackson Smith-Njigba goes to Seattle, and then it was just boom, 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 DT. I mean, Quentin Johnson goes to the Chargers. Zay Flowers, another target for Lamar Jackson out there in Baltimore, and then followed up by Jordan Addison going up to pair with Jefferson out there in Minnesota. And it was just like, wow, like, it was right before the Bills were getting ready to pick. I was getting excited. I remember texting you about, like, whoa, man, we might get lucky here. And I know I wanted Zay Flowers or somebody real similar to him, because I figured that Smith-Njigba would be the first one gone. And for a second there, DT, it looked like we might have a look at it. And I mean, just as fast as we thought that it was ever happening, these guys just got gobbled up.
Yeah, and I'm looking like when it goes 20, JSN, and then it was Chargers, right? Chargers were 21.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, like,
Quentin Johnson,
my first instinct was to stay, all right, trade up, Beane, trade up, get the next guy, get Addison or Flowers, or Flowers. And then they went bang, bang. And so then I just pretty much wrote we're trading out of it at that point. I thought we were done in the first round. We trade out, start building picks, because we only had 6 to come in with.
Right.
But everybody makes sense in that. I mean, Seahawks could use pair them with Lockett and DK Metcalf. Other than Quentin Johnson and the Chargers, I get it's
he seems like a clone
Allen and Mike Wallace
of Mike Williams, though.
They two $20 million guys, right? Yeah, Mike Williams, not Mike
Yeah,
Wallace,
he
but
seems like a clone.
two $20 million guys, but they're really rarely on the field at the same time. Keenan Allen's either hurt or Mike
Right,
Williams is either hurt.
right.
So maybe this was a good pick. Get, Justin Herbert, young up and comer, get him weapons as everyone is preaching here. And I like Quentin Johnson, just a big body guy.
Mm-hmm.
I liked watching him at TCU and whatnot too. So that was the one I was like, didn't really, the other ones I can definitely see was Zay Flowers going to, the Ravens. That kind of fits there. They got their two big guys. Now they got the, little speedster through there. And then Jordan Addison to the Vikings. Vikings needed to get somebody in there to get the pressure off, JJ. And as they just bracket and double, triple, quadruple, whatever the defense is doing against him. So they needed at least some sort of threat, on the other side. So I understood it all. And then after that, I was okay with it, but I wrote off any, offensive, any first round pick at that point. I thought we were moving back.
Yeah, it's interesting because even, Brandon Beane kind of alluded to it, in his post-draft comments and talked about how, that they wanted Kincaid and had he not been there, then they were going to try to trade back if they could because of the fact that they didn't have any more grades, or at least they weren't going to divulge any more grades that they had in respects to who they were looking to take. And it was a situation where I was kind of proud, because of the fact that regardless of the draft being a crapshoot or not, I like the fact that they had conviction. I like the fact that they had somebody that they liked, that they wanted to go get. And it, as opposed to just drafting somebody just to draft them, or, God forbid they're not able to trade back, so they're just kind of reaching on a position or something like that of need. I like the fact that they went to something that they thought that they had to have. And, to hear Brandon Beane talk about it, DT, he was saying that I'm going to sleep better at night. He would miss that 4th round pick, which he said he would, but, he said he would feel better sleeping at night with the fact that they went and got their guy. And Kincaid is an interesting prospect. Our 1st round pick, as you guys all know, Dalton Kincaid from Utah, the talented tight end who, kind of can be viewed as somewhat of a slot receiver. It seems like the Bills are going to be trying to use him in that fashion, to say the least. And DT, I have to be, honest. I'm intrigued by him, not because of the fact that I'm not pretending that a tight end can be a slot receiver. I do understand the difference in the body type and things like that. But this guy seems to be, ultra talented at catching the ball and moving without the ball and finding, soft spots in the zone. Some of the things that obviously Cole Beasley did that they're looking for to kind of emulate. And I'm all for it. Like, listen, if this guy can come in and catch a bunch of balls from Josh Allen and Josh is going to use him, then I'm all for it. It doesn't matter what his classification is, whether it's a wide receiver or a tight end. I'm definitely okay with, an F tight end coming in, chilling there in the slot and just find a way to, create matchup nightmares for the defense, especially if they're a nickel.
Yeah, he'll have his own identity. He'll be his own, own player. He'll be in this offense differently than, other tight ends in the league. But we look, what's our biggest threat currently is the Chiefs. And
Right.
what's the biggest threat within that? Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So
yeah.
I'm not saying we have to, go step for step and do exactly what the Chiefs do, because that's not what the NFL's built like. You gotta play to what you got, right? But the factor of that dominating tight end power, is intriguing to me, because it's the team that's won, been to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 in the last 5 years, and mainly because of 87 and Travis Kelce. So he's always there. He's always open. He's always in the middle, on linebackers and whatnot. And if Kincaid can come in and give us any sort of that, I think that's, 50-60% of that, I think it's a hit, in the first round. So the way something I took from that as well, looking at Pat over the past week and kind of the way Beane is talking, and it seems like they were going after this guy like this was their guy in the first round. Like, I don't, it's easy to say that now because they picked him, but like the vibe was kind of feels like they weren't really looking at receiver. They were looking at this guy. And that's even more comforting to know that, they have a plan and they want to, build something with Kincaid and whatnot through there. But WGR said this, and I agreed. Like, you're looking at past couple of years, you bring in OJ Howard. Doesn't really cut it. You bring in Jake Hollister the year before, doesn't really cut it. And so it seems like they were trying to get that big athletic type tight end, and it wasn't working out. So finally now they got it, and here it is. And maybe that's what Dorsey was asking for, and that's what Dorsey and Josh wanted. It seemed like Josh was pretty happy about it from what Beane said. And there was rumors around town, the rumor mill swinging up that when Josh went to the barbershop last week, he was real subtle, but they said just one name in the first round, and he said Dalton Kincaid, I guess, at the barbershop. So that was the
Wow.
report.
Look at
Everybody
that.
was quick to say that, and
Yeah.
Josh kind of had him on his radar before the draft, and I think the Mafia Nickel City crew probably took it a little.
I think
The
we got our
knee-jerk
hopes up.
reaction was not
Yeah, I think we
positive.
got our hopes up for a wide receiver, and it kind of
Yeah.
seemed like maybe
And then a tight
it
end
was
from Utah. What the
right.
hell? Like
Yeah,
everyone was like,
exactly. It kind of seemed like we
typical. What the hell?
yeah, we were
We
getting a
never
little bit
played 12
pissed off.
personnel. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But then,
And
couple days go by, dust settles. Hey, this dude's legit, So I didn't mind it when we actually took the pick. But I'm a little more positive than the average fan, I think. But we'll take it. We'll see what happens. And it seems like the organization was kind of the guy. So if we could go up and get this, we'll take it, and I'm excited to see what it does. But a lot of good points are being brought up, like what's production look like this year? What's a successful first year for this guy? Is he obviously he's not going to be Travis Kelce year one, but what's a number you put on this guy that's like, okay, we can do something with this, or wasting a pick. So that's what I'm interested to kind of look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, we never see their draft boards, so obviously we'll never know if Brandon Beane would have taken one of the wide receivers had it been Dalton Kincaid and some of the other guys as well. But again, the conviction for me is what I appreciated. I like the fact that he thought that Dallas was going to, take a tight end, and he was pretty sure of it. And he kind of said that he had it on good authority that they would have. I think that that's the truth. They kept talking about how Mozzie Smith was, their pick there at Dallas, but obviously, they could be bullshitting as well. So, I think that, the fact that they thought that, Dallas was in position to take him, and they knew that they couldn't go into the next day without a pass catcher for Josh, somebody to go ahead and get that ball and run some good routes, whether it be a wide receiver or classified as a tight end. It makes me feel good because, again, that makes, the conviction, regardless if they're wrong or right, we'll find out if they're wrong or right on it. But the fact that they had the conviction, puts me in a good place. Now, as you shift to the second round and they're on out, O'Cyrus Torrence, second round guard, right at the top of round two. Man, I mean, this was an interesting pick because of the fact that this guy is a road grader, DT. I mean, he reminds me of you. Like, he is no fun to go up against. Like, listen, this guy's going to move people. He's going to move grown men. Now, I don't know what he's really like on the pass pro. To be honest, I heard some mixed reviews on that. But when it comes to the run game and actually creating space, this guy's one of those guys that he might disrupt your game plan in respects to the defensive line that you're going up against because of the fact that he's just so damn big. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with McGovern, and I know we got Bates, who could, be a guard. He could be a tackle. He could do a lot of different things for this team. I know Questenberry's back as well, and obviously Spencer Brown will be on the right side unless he's pushed. Man, I think that this is a guy, Torrence, that might be able to come in and like push Bates or push somebody to get a starting guard spot, and where it might be just McGovern, the new prize toy of the offseason, along with him at the guard positions on either side of Mitch Morse. It just seems like this is a big guy. It was intentional. Again, if they wanted a more athletic, guard, they could have gotten one. They picked a road grader for a reason. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to run the ball more, but it does mean that they wanted somebody that could move men up front. And it's got me intrigued as well, just like the first round pick.
Yeah, in my opinion, the thing this offensive line is missing is that a little bit of mean to him, a little bit of a bad boy to him. Spencer Brown has it a little bit, but obviously had a rough year last year. But we need a little more grit, I think, on that offensive line, a little more we're going to beat your ass type style. And, he brings that. I think he fell deeper because he is pretty strictly interior lineman. Has never played tackle, has never really played center, has really barely ever played the other guard. So he's pretty locked in as a standard interior lineman, but we'll take it. Phil, it's like when the Bills needed a quarterback for years. I was like, draft 7 quarterbacks, see which one works, and keep it moving. Kind of like that on the offensive defensive lines right now. Like, they got a base layer, we got the team around it. Fill in these gaps as much as you can, and I think we did a great pick with here. This guy's huge, he's mean, he's nice, and I think more than a push. I'd expect him to really, compete for for a starting spot up there in the middle somewhere, and I think that might be transition of we see McGovern on one side, Torrence on the other, and then
and then let
Morse and Bates kind of go on the center role as you work through there. So it'll be interesting to see. I love the pick, and a lot of steel talk going on there. It was deep, and all the mock. Like I've seen him on mocks in the first round.
He was first round to the
ton of
Bills.
times up until the day. So we'll take that. And again, Beane just kind of sitting there thinking like, damn, this guy's still here. We got to take him. So I like everything about that. Big bruiser, like you said, road grinder. I like that.
Yeah, he's a road grader, man. Yeah, he's a road grader. He will move grown men out of their way. And I really am intrigued by that because I want Josh to stay as clean as possible. And then I want the holes to be opened up when we do decide to run or screen pass, whatever the case may be. So we'll see what his athleticism brings to the table on the pass pro and different things like that in screen game. But when it comes to running the ball or just literally stopping somebody from touching your quarterback, everything is positive in that respect for O'Cyrus Torrence. Now, third round is probably one of the more interesting picks of the entire draft for the Bills for sure. And it's because of the fact that there just seems to be a little bit of everything coming about this guy after the draft. DT Dorian Williams from Tulane. It seems like he's rangy, but he's a little light in the ass. Then Brandon Beane says he's going to play on the outside, which means that you're a backup to Matt Milano on nickel packages. So then why weren't you drafting somebody to play and replace Tremaine Edmunds? I'm not really sure what their whole thing was on this. I don't know if he was just the best linebacker available, whatever the case may be, but they went and got the guy. I mean, they didn't draft up, they didn't trade up for him or anything like that, but third round, 28th pick in that round, Dorian Williams, 6'1", again, a little bit light in the ass, 228 from Tulane. I mean, they say he's going to play outside and he'll start his career outside, not where Tremaine Edmunds was on the Mike linebacker position. What do you make of it? Because it was a little bit perplexing when I read some of the stuff about him and then heard Brandon Beane's comments as well. I was expecting that they would say that this guy's going to compete in the Mike with Terrell Bernard, with, Dobson, but it doesn't seem like they're planning on doing that with him. So I'm just kind of interested to see what direction they're taking this with. Well,
immediately, I think two things. I think Dodson or Bernard has shown something that they're cool with them being the starter, and and they just want to build some depth, and they're not worried about it.
Right.
Or they got somebody in the wings to sign, because there's really no other explanation, of drafting this guy as the first team All Pros backup, on a team that's in a win now mentality, and they've made moves to prove that they are in a win now mentality. So this is kind of a little uncharacteristic if they're just building depth in the third round, build a special teams guy, whatever the case is. And so the only alternative in my eyes is, Dodson or Bernard is showing enough to be a starter next year, or they got somebody waiting in the wings to sign, because the only other intangible, third round pick here is because of one of those reasons, I think. So it'll be interesting, and I'm not writing him off by any means. I mean, Tremaine Edmunds had a little more stock to him when he was drafted, obviously first rounder, and just was bigger overall, and played great for us, I think, but just never really had that comfortability and full out. Maybe this guy's a little more long term. You won't see him for the first couple of years, and year 3, 4, 5, they really think they can do something. But it just goes too much against all the characteristics Beane has been showing. So there's got to be something else up his sleeve, to contradict it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, whether they're going to give this guy a shot to play the mic, or whether, what I mean. I don't really know, to be honest. I do see the special teams value. I know that they like special teams contributors. I thought it was odd that a third round pick was not taken on a guy that was actually going to have an opportunity to replace Tremaine. And because of that, it's kind of I'm just watching. That's all. We'll see what this guy does. And again, give those guys helmets when it comes summertime at St. John's Fisher. Let's see what Dotson has. Let's see what Bernard has. Everybody gets an opportunity to earn their spot. And it was something that was brought up today on WGR that was interesting, was that maybe this is a sign that there's a shift in philosophy from the Bills defensively. And maybe, like you just said, that it wasn't something where the Mike linebacker position is something that they're going to place that much value on going forward. And maybe it's not going to be as necessary in whatever scheme that Sean McDermott's going to be coming up with, if it changes much. But I'll be watching it because it was an odd pick, but not, like I said, I'm not writing it off. Just like you said, it was just interesting, because it just didn't seem like it fit. One of these things, they're not like the other type of thing, but we'll see. Now, because of that trade up for Dalton Kincaid, the Bills missed out on a 4th-round pick. Brandon Beane talked about how he was going to be wringing his hands during the 4th round and, being mad and saying, gosh darn it, to all the players that were gone that he would have picked. But in the 5th round, 16th pick, they did get a guy, Justin Shorter from Florida, who is, the joke has been that he's nothing, he's not short at all. 6'4", 229,
No.
a big boy. I mean, he's bigger than
Yoked,
Dalton Kincaid, damn near. Yeah, and
Yoked.
he's a big, he looks like T.O. damn near. This guy is a big boy, and it's going to be interesting because, it's kind of reminiscent of James Hardy and some of those other big receivers that we've had back in the past that kind of flash in the pan. They really don't do much, but this is a big guy. He's got great hands. Sometimes he's had some problems with drops early on in his Florida career, but he was pretty consistent this last year. And man, I mean, I have no problem taking a flyer. Yes, I understand the wide receiver train. Again, I was on it. I was in the first class car. I was waiting. Listen, Dalton Kincaid plus a flyer on a guy like Justin Shorter, I'm okay with it because of the fact that, again, you didn't reach, you didn't pull a Detroit Lions and grab Jahmyr Gibbs when you had no reason doing that. You didn't pull a Green Bay Packers and take Lucas Van Ness, who I guess was like a rotational player at Iowa at defensive end, and they took him in the top 15, whatever it was that the Packers picked. So I'm glad that they didn't reach. I'm glad that they stuck to their principles. And listen, take a flyer on a guy. Let's see what he's got. Like, give him a helmet, give him some pads, and let him see if he can catch some balls in camp and see what he does in the preseason. I have no problem with taking a flyer on a guy in the 5th round because you're really not losing too much value because of the fact that anything he brings is going to be a positive.
Yeah, this cat he's got the physical.
He looks like T.O., bro.
Man, this dude's nice looking. But he was like the top receiver recruit out of high school. He was one of the top wide receiver recruits coming out. I think he's from New Jersey. I'd have to fact check that, but I think he's from New Jersey. And yeah, he was like top tier wide receiver coming out. Didn't live up to that hype and whatnot, and had a good quarterback at least last year in Richardson. But I like it. They talk a lot. He played a lot of special teams. He's a punt flyer, a gunner when it comes to that. And as we talked on the last pick about special teams depth, I don't love that in the 3rd, but you go in the 5th, 6th and get some special teams depth and somebody that can compete for a jersey in the wide receiver room and hold those guys accountable and hold them up and have this physical, specimen to get it done. I like the pick.
Yeah, I like it a lot because of the fact, again, that there's just not a lot of downside. Like, I don't see anything wrong with taking a flyer on a guy like that. I'm interested in seeing what he can provide in respects to a Gabe Davis clone or a Gabe Davis replacement. I mean, obviously, that'd be lofty expectations, but we didn't expect that from Gabe Davis either. It's just interesting because Gabe Davis is coming up on a contract year. You know what I mean? Like, it's just interesting because Gabe Davis, we really were expecting. We were expecting so much, and I told somebody the other day, I was like, maybe we got a little bit spoiled by the Kansas City game, and obviously nobody's going to be breaking records every single time that they come out on the field.
Sure.
And that game against the Chiefs was historic, and Jerry Rice had never even put up a Sunday like that, a playoff game like that. So I think that we got a little bit spoiled. He wasn't everything that we wanted him to be last year, but I still have a little bit of faith that he can have a bounce back year. But some of the type of stuff that he does on the sideline, it looks like Shorter might be able to do. So I'm interested in seeing if that would be something that can be replicated because who knows if we can afford to pay Gabe Davis if he has a decent year to have a bounce back year. Maybe you can't afford to keep him for 18, 19 million or whatever he's going to command on the market. So it'll be interesting to see. The last 2 picks, Nick Broker, another guard from Ole Miss, and then Alex Austin, a cornerback from Oregon State to round out the 7th round picks for the Bills. Again, Broker is just another mean, nasty guy who's going to go ahead and move some people around. A big guy, 6'4", 305 pounds. So he's he fires out the ball. He hits guys in the mouth. And again, kind of staying in that same theme, DT, just protecting Josh Allen. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this draft, DT, was that it was offense. Now, it might not have been pass catcher for all 5 picks in the first 5 rounds, or whatever the case may be, but it really was a situation where it was a concerted effort, it looked like, for the Bills to address offense. And I would be a hypocrite if I said that I'm not on board with that.
100%. What I wanted to bring up when in the Torrence pick, as well as this pick, is now there's some competition on this offensive line, and some of these vets know, like, it's not acceptable. Josh gets touched, that's not acceptable. And there's guys that are road graders here that are ready to protect and ready to go, and there's that competition of we're not just this is the line we got. Play it. Not saying they're taking plays off or anything like that, but the competition level, I think, is raised now. In practice, it's going to be everybody's fighting for a spot. It's going to be that much. Everyone's going to be on their shit that much tighter. That much crazier to protect 17. If 17 gets touched, it's unacceptable. That's got to be the philosophy, literally the rest of his career. And I think this brings the competition level up in the offensive line room, which is only going to make everybody better.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously against some guys that have some position flexibility, as you talked about with Bates earlier, and some of the other guys. I know Broker played both guard and tackle. It might be a situation where you're just making sure that you're planning ahead, like you talked about. Who knows how long Mitch Morse is going to play, like we talked about last week, with his concussion history. So just kind of making sure that the cupboard stays full, so to speak. And I'm okay with that. I mean, the wide receiver train was fun. It was fun to kind of get on. But what is Brandon Beane really supposed to do? I remember texting you during the draft, like when that wide receiver run happened from 20 to 23, like, well, what are you supposed to do? I would, again, rather my GM not reach at a position of quote unquote need, and go and get a guy that they might have had a second round grade on, as opposed to just going to get the guy that you like. If you liked two of the, he admitted, he said he did not have 4 first round grades on those 4 receivers taken. So if you're going to take him at face value on that and believe that he's telling us the truth, which he really doesn't, I haven't caught him in any lies yet, then if that's the case, maybe he had Smith and Jigba and Zay Flowers as his first rounders. Once those guys are gone, maybe he looked at Dalton Kincaid and was like, all right, well, we can make this guy a slot receiver, and we can make him a big slot in the F tight end, and let's just do it. Forget it. Let's just do it, and let's just see what happens with it and see if Josh can get on the ball. I've got no problem with taking flyers on guys like that, because of the fact that I know it was first round. I know it was a trade up. I know you gave him a 4th round pick. But if you've got conviction and you'll sleep better at night, then hey, the Bills, the Pagulas are paying you. So I'm gonna go with that because it's your job on the line, not mine.
One thing interesting about that, Beane said, I think it was a couple days ago, he said to get the trade with the Jaguars, he was like, he had to plead like a little schoolgirl. Like he doesn't usually do that, he straight up told the Jaguars, hey, I'm picking Kincaid. I need to move up to get in front of Dallas to get it. Right. And he doesn't usually, you don't usually tell the people who you're drafting to get the pick. And he said, so that's also plugs into what I was talking about earlier. Like, I think this guy was a lot more of their guy than what was led on. I think he was probably right up there with the JSN and one of those other guys for Absolutely. Sure when it came to first round weapons. And he was there. They went up and got him. And the way he kind of explained that, of being like, yeah, I basically just said, hey, I want Dalton Kincaid. What do I have to do to get him? And that was kind of the vibe they did to do it.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. And I know that, a lot of Bills fans will gripe and they'll bitch and moan. I heard a little bit about it on WGR after the draft, and the Bills, like you had already alluded to, they don't run 12 personnel, and they never use their tight ends now, and they barely pass.
Josh Allen didn't throw the tight ends.
Yeah, they barely pass the Dawson Knox now, and all this other stuff. So listen, here's what I'll say to that is, all the chips are on the table in respects to, Ken Dorsey. You only get your first time to say that it was your first time. So last year was his first time on the job. I want to see what he's got. It's up to him. It's up to him along with the quarterback. Now, I will put some of that at Josh's doorstep. It is on Josh to make sure that he's incorporating the guys in the offense, making sure that the weapons are being utilized and different things like that. However, I want to put stress on a defense. I do want the Kansas City effect, DT. I want it where there are so many different weapons where you can't really key in on one guy. Now, obviously, 14 is going to take up a large amount of the attention from every defensive coordinator and would just do. But outside of Stephon Diggs, make sure that there's weapons within the offense that everybody's worried about. I'm worried about James Cook coming out of the backfield. I'm worried about, Dawson Knox. He's lined up in line. I'm worried about, Kincaid. He's lined up outline. I'm worried about, Gabe Davis. I'm worried about Hardy. I'm worried about, Shorter. I'm worried about, what was the other guy? Sherfield. from Miami. I'm worried about a lot of guys on offense that can do some things when they've got the ball in their hand, and create some mismatches where it's not just one guy. It's never just been one guy. Yes, Tyreek Hill with Patrick Mahomes made for a deadly combination, but it was a lot of the other guys as well that made life easier for Patrick Mahomes and for Tyreek Hill, including chiefly, again, there's that name again, Kelsey, who is obviously the matchup nightmare of a generation. So I just want to make sure that the Bills are utilizing all of their options. Make sure Dorsey is putting it on Josh Allen's plate so he can handle it, and then let's see what Josh does with it. Take all the weapons you can, throw them, and get them at his disposal so that way Josh can kind of see what he's got on a game-to-game basis. And maybe if it's a matchup team, I don't mind being a matchup team. I don't mind being a team that exploits what you do shitty. I don't mind being an offense that Dorsey's got a plan for what you don't do well. That's what makes some of the best offenses in the league. But just having one guy and it's just Stephon Diggs, we've already seen how that circus ends.
Yeah, and I said it a few times during the season of when you play the Bills, it's probably the toughest week of your season for a defense
preparation.
In preparation, with just everything Josh Allen gives you. But 5 years in, a lot of tape on 17 now, a lot of tape on 17 of not one-dimensional, but, like you said, one guy, Stephon Diggs, doing the one thing.
Right,
a lot
or
of
he
tape
puts on the
that.
cape, or Josh puts on the cape.
Exactly, or he puts on the cape and gets it done. Now throwing a little fold, a little curveball in where teams are going to have to think twice about it. And your point was exactly right. You have to incorporate them in the offense to create that fear, to create that temptation for a defense to come down and work that. Because if he's just a pass catcher that doesn't get the ball, then you're just back to your normal self. So you got to create the fear, and a lot of tape on 17. So I think this is a nice little switch up of, they're not changing the whole offense or anything like that, but hey, we're going to throw some different things that nobody's ever seen, and we're going to utilize it to only open up Stephon Diggs more, only open up Gabe Davis more. And when Gabe Davis was his best was when he wasn't what he was last year,
So, when he was the third receiver option. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So get back to that a little, throw some different looks in. And I think the nice thing about this, slot tight end type deal is it doesn't have to be so far downfield. Like, you just got to beat linebackers. You just got to beat, nickel corners.
Yeah.
And that's that's what Travis Kelce does literally all the time. Like, how is he so open every single play? Well, it's because he runs good routes and he's bigger than everybody. So, and that's what this guy's going to do. And Josh has got to be, Josh isn't afraid to whip it anywhere, but this is one he's not going to be, wide open every play. It's got to be somebody you can just throw it up to and get him the ball. If there's a couple of guys on him, just know he can get it. And 2 drops in college, 4 years of college, 2 drops.
I know.
That's insane.
I know. I watched the highlight of him at I think they played it might have been UCLA or somebody, and he had like 16 catches and like 200 something yards, and it was just like
USC.
Yes, that's what it was. USC. And I'm like, golly, like he looked like a Travis. He looked like a Travis Kelce though. He was literally all over the field, and he was right in between the numbers in those hashes, and he was just chopping them up, man. I mean, it was short stuff. It was intermediate. He had a couple of nice red zone catches, a touchdown catch in the red zone. I'm intrigued by him for sure. I mean, I know that we'll argue, and Jeremy White on WGR has already kind of gotten into it. A couple of fans who've been talking about slot receiver versus tight end, and he doesn't want to call this guy a slot receiver, and I get that's fine. Listen, to me, it's tomato, potato. I don't give a shit what you call him, as long as he's open, or like you said, as long as he's finding gaps in the defense to make himself presentable and available for Josh. That's really all I don't really care about it. I don't have anything to do with his contract or what he's paid on the 5th-year option and all this other stuff, whether he's classified like a Jimmy Graham. And remember when Jimmy Graham was arguing about his status and say, why he line up in the slot all the time? So I should be paid like a wide receiver. Well, they paid you like a tight end. So, I mean, I don't have anything to do with his classification. I want him to be open and presentable for Josh, available for Josh. And I'm hoping that Josh goes ahead and just utilizes them. I mean, Dawson Knox should not feel slighted by this, in my opinion. I mean, obviously he's a higher pick than him, but Dawson Knox has already gotten his bag. Dawson Knox is a big part of the offense. Dawson Knox is somebody that I think that Josh trusts. You've seen that he trusts him. Now, he had a little bit
not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He had a little bit of a down year in respects to production last year, but I don't think that was a function of Dawson Knox dropping off. I think that he was going through a lot. His brother passed away. Obviously, last year was an emotional year for the entire team, and I think the entire team will tell you that as well, as they kind of echoed at the end of the year after that debacle against the Bengals. So to me, Dawson Knox is still in line, not going anywhere, as you said, and I think that they can feed off of one another. I don't think that this should be a jealousy thing or anything like that. I think they do two different jobs. This guy is not going to block. And as Brandon Beane said after the draft, they're not going to ask him to do the shit that he doesn't do well. So they're not going to ask him to line up in line and take on a defensive end. They're not going to really ask him to do that. They're going to ask him to do the things that have made him successful in college, and that is be a pass catcher, man. Get open for your quarterback.
Yeah, don't drop, and that's not what he does. So yeah, I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm down with it, man. As we wrap up. The Bills made a couple of undrafted free agent signings, and I know that those guys will get to camp as well. And then they made a surprising move after the draft with a free agent with Latavius Murray. Now, he's a name that we all know because he's been around the league for so damn long. Started out with the Raiders.
Local guy, too.
Yep, he is. Yes, he is a local guy. And I'm really happy that he's back. I think he's a Syracuse kid, right? Is that true?
Yeah, yep. Onondaga High.
Okay, Onondaga High. So, listen, Latavius Murray coming out the back end of his career. You want to talk about a big back? That's a big back. I mean, he's 6'3", like 6'2" or 6'3". Like he's a big back. He's literally and figuratively a big back. So I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table. I don't know if he's going to make the team. I know that Damian Harris was picked up. I know that Nyheim Hines. If the Bills want to make Nyheim Hines just their pick, just their kick returner and punt returner, then there might be a space for Murray on the team as a mentor in that locker room, in that running back room for Cook, along with Harris.
Broncos leading rusher last year, Rob.
Yeah, I know.
Granted, they were in shambles, but
they are. I mean, he had almost as many yards as Singletary did. Yeah.
Yeah, only played 13 games and
760 yards,
7 tutties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had to go to London twice because he was on the Saints, and then went to the Broncos and had to go to London twice. And yeah, it's been productive really his whole career. Hasn't been a superstar anywhere, but has been definitely productive. And that's what they won back that they didn't have in this repertoire was kind of the big bruiser, not the Booby Dixon. If you need 3, he'll get you 1. If you need 1, he'll get you 1. If you need 5, he'll get you 1. Latavius Murray will get you a couple of yards. So we'll I think he makes the team. I with the Taiwan Jones might not be coming back.
Right.
Now with the draft of Dorian Williams, Shorter, and
teams
what's the last pick?
Alex Austin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alex Austin. That might be that special team filler, that Taiwan Jones was. So if Taiwan Jones goes, then they would definitely, keep the same amount of halfbacks. And I like it. Only going to push, different than Damian Harris, different than James Cook, definitely different than Nyheim Hines. But like you said, Nyheim Hines got traded, only returned kicks, barely played on the offense at all last year. So if he doesn't do that this year, it's not going to be anything different. So I'll take Latavius Murray there to get on the 3rd and 1. We put Latavius Murray in. That's a nice little combo. Him, Josh Allen, who's getting it. Yep. That's a tough tackle for the defense.
Yeah, instead of Josh running in, and getting hit like you talked about, getting Josh and having him take less hits, this might be something that helps alleviate that for him and keeps our quarterback out of some sticky situations on those larger situations where we talked about it at the end of last, season 2. Like it just seemed like they didn't really have a plan. And it's like, okay, well, fuck it, Josh, you just kind of take it over and you just do whatever. Maybe they have another option on some short yardage situations where they can kind of plug in Latavius Murray. I don't mind if he makes the team at all. I'll be interested to see if he does, like you said, a hometown kid. They're from Central New York and Syracuse area. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited about that. We've got, undrafted free agents, and you'll see that throughout the offseason. Guys coming in again. The rosters are at 90. I think the Bills.
Poona Ford.
Poona Ford. Yep. Poona Ford was signed as well.
About the big boy. Yeah.
Please don't let me forget about Poona Ford. It was funny because we had talked about how the defensive tackles, everybody's on a 1-year deal. Brandon Beane sticks with that same formula. There's 5 defensive tackles on the roster right now on 1-year deals. Tim Settle, we've got Jordan Phillips, we've got Daquan Jones, your boy. We've got now Poona Ford along with Ed Oliver, who's playing on his 5th-year option. Yeah. Boy, man, listen, I don't mind it. I guess he had a little bit of a down year, but he's a quick penetrator. He can help out in the run game and kind of get upfield as well. He had 3 sacks last year, which was a career high for him, but I mean, hey, another big boy. I have no
another
problem
big
with
boy.
it, man. I have no problem with it. The way that the season ended with Cincinnati running down our throats was really a hard thing to watch. And if this guy can help out with that, I'm definitely all on board. Thank you for
big belly
reminding
on him.
One
of his sack dance, he rubs his belly. I love that.
Yeah,
A little Sam Adams type feel to him, you know.
Yeah, a little Ted Washington
little
on
Sam
that
Adams type feel. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely.
But Capaccio said this today. He had his down year. Seattle switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4 last year.
Okay.
And so he strictly went to nose guard, full gap. And that just you don't get any stats doing that. You know, if you're a nose guard in the 3-4 or 3-5, you're just plugging. That's all.
You're just
literally,
plugging.
that's all you do.
Eating up blockers.
Yeah. So he gets back into a 4-4-3, something he can get a little more motion in. He's going to be 1-on-1, and we'll see. But Tim Settle had a little bit of a down year. Daquan Jones was great.
Yeah,
Ed Oliver, say what you will, but in the playoff game without Daquan, it was huge. So we'll flip that back, see what Poona Ford brings, and just bring that tenacity, that game in the trenches. trenches. I mean, they didn't address it in the draft, but we'll take it. We'll take it now, and I like all of them being on their final year, because it's like, who are we paying?
Yeah.
Who's playing good enough for us to pay? If you don't play good enough, see you. So that's a nice little incentive to everybody's playing for that next. A few Quan Jones, Jordan Phillips might be talking retirement, but other than that, it's who are we paying?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing better than a good old, heaping spoonful of motivation to kind of get your defensive line in order and kind of help out with the edge rushers as well that will benefit from some penetration up front from those interior linemen. So we'll see, man. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the draft. I really did enjoy the coverage of it. I like the fact that the Bills went and got their guy. Like I said before, we don't see the draft board, so we have to take them at face value. And from some of the actions of the Buffalo Bills and Brandon Beane, you have to kind of really give some credence to the fact that this was one of the players that they really did target in the first round with Dalton Kincaid. So the best of luck to the 2023 draft class from Nickel City Crew to them. Bills Mafia. I mean, I know you guys are excited. Listen, next week we've got an episode. I mean, we might as well just go an extra night and just do it on next Thursday if we can squeeze it in, man. You know what I mean? Schedule. Yes, I mean the schedule release is the time of year. It is my favorite time of year, besides when the actual season itself kicks off. Again, being a season ticket holder down here in Charlotte, I literally look out for this day because I do plan my fall and winter based on what is going on. When am I coming home? What does the schedule look like? I've got, my King's birthdays in there in September and October, and just planning literally my entire life. DT is planned around that schedule release. So it's not a joke for me. It is a way of life. When that schedule comes out next week, I will be glued to the TV on every matchup. Expect the Bills to be in primetime, DT, and us, the days of us meeting at the stadium, man, and early in the morning, and it's a 1:00 kick. I don't know how many times we're going to get a chance to do that this year. We might be able to do it in the opening week. We might be able to do it, a few other times. But boy, we are, as I said last week, man, we're on the marquee. There is nowhere to hide. We are one of the main attractions in the NFL right now.
And the AFC just keeps getting better with Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets, and so there's going to be primetime games everywhere. Last year was what, 6 or 7? Did we have? Including the
I think we had 5 or 6. Yeah. We had Thanksgiving, man. We had a whole bunch. We had the opener. I mean, we had a whole bunch of stuff in there, man. We had another
this year. This year we got London.
Yeah, we got London. So we'll probably play the Jags.
There's a little conspiracy going on right now. I don't know if you've heard any of this.
Is that about the Hotspur?
Google, yeah. If you Google the Tottenham Hotspurs, it gives the NFL the 3 games there.
Yes, so it looks like we're
and they say Bills October 8th.
Okay,
October 8th.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but it doesn't show the opponent, right? It just shows the home team for that game. Okay, yeah.
And Jacksonville's playing 2 London games this year.
Well, they might. They are definitely playing a London game because they always play a London game, and then there was some speculation that they might play us in the game that we're playing as the away team.
2 weeks.
And see if they can't stay out there over the pond. So we'll it's crazy, man. The NFL is just like we've always talked about it. They're a behemoth. They take over, and we'll definitely all be glued next week. So we'll probably go back a day and just wait for the schedule to come out next week, because it really is that big of a deal. So as always, man, I mean, please spread love, not hate. These were my Bills thoughts said out loud. Hit them with a Go Bills, DT. The draft is here, man. The draft is done.
Go Bills. Go Bills. 86.
Kincaid,
what's up?
New blood.
Get that jersey.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like it a lot, man. We'll good. Best of luck to the 2023 draft class. We'll see you guys at St. John Fisher in a couple months, man. Before you know it, DT, we're going to be right there, man. We're going to be right there before you know it.
Right in it. Hopefully it heats up by then too, the weather.
Oh man, good. Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel bad for you guys up there, man, for sure, because I'm enjoying the weather down here in Charlotte, man. But you stay good, man. Actually, you heading out of town, aren't you? Where you headed?
Yeah, going to Myrtle Beach next week. So we get a little warmth coming in to DT
get
here.
A little fun in the sun.
See what the golf game looks like after a rusty winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you didn't play much golf during the blizzard. So yeah, you'll dust off your clubs and see what you got in the bag, man. So I appreciate you as always, DT, man. Hit him with one more Go Bills, man. Hit him with
Go
one
Bills.
more, man.
Go Bills, baby.